Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the clock on her computer screen. It was almost 11 at night. The office building was quiet and empty. Most people had gone home hours ago. Only the security guards and cleaning staff were still working. Sarah was 22 years old. Her mother, Margaret Chen, owned the big technology company called Techvision. The company had offices in a tall glass building in the city center. Sarah worked there too, but she tried to earn her place like any other employee. She did not want people to think she got special treatment because her mother was the boss. Tonight, Sarah had to finish an important presentation for tomorrow's meeting. She had been working on it for weeks. The presentation was about new software that could help hospitals manage patient records better. Sarah believed this project could help many people. She wanted everything to be perfect. Sarah saved her work and closed her laptop. She put her papers in her bag and stood up to stretch. Her back hurt from sitting in the chair for so long. She looked around the empty office. During the day, this place was full of people talking, typing, and making phone calls. Now it was completely silent. She walked toward the elevator to go down to the parking garage. Her car was waiting for her there. Sarah was looking forward to going home, taking a hot shower and sleeping in her comfortable bed. But then she heard something strange. It was music. Beautiful piano music was coming from somewhere in the building. Sarah stopped walking and listened carefully. The music was soft but clear. Someone was playing classical music, and they were playing it very well. Sarah felt confused. Who could be playing piano at this time of night? The building should be empty except for security and cleaning people. She knew there was a grand piano in the executive conference room on the 20th floor. Her mother had bought it last year for special events and meetings with important clients. The music continued to flow through the empty hallways. Sarah recognized the piece. It was Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. She had studied piano when she was younger, so she knew good playing when she heard it. This person was not just good, they were amazing. Sarah decided to follow the sound. She walked slowly through the dark hallways. The only lights were the emergency exit signs and some dim security lights. Her footsteps echoed softly on the marble floor. The music got louder as she got closer to the conference room. She reached the 20th floor and walked down the long hallway. The conference room doors were made of glass, but they were frosted so people could not see inside during meetings. Light was coming from under the doors. Sarah could hear the piano music clearly now. It was the most beautiful playing she had ever heard. Sarah moved closer to the doors. She could see a shadow moving inside the room. Someone was sitting at the piano bench. Their hands were moving gracefully over the keys. The music filled the air with such emotion that Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She had to see who was playing. Sarah gently pushed one of the doors open just a little bit. She looked inside the conference room. What she saw surprised her completely. A man in a blue janitor's uniform was sitting at the grand piano. He was probably in his 30s. He had dark hair and was wearing the same uniform that all the cleaning staff wore. His name tag said Miguel. Sarah had seen him around the building before, but she had never really paid attention to him. Miguel's eyes were closed as he played. His whole body moved with the music. His fingers danced across the keys like he had been playing piano his whole life. The way he played was full of passion and feeling. Sarah could tell that this music meant everything to him. The piece was coming to an end. Miguel played the last few notes very softly and gently. When the music stopped, the room became completely quiet. Miguel sat still for a moment with his hands resting on the keys. Then he opened his eyes and saw Sarah standing in the doorway. Miguel jumped up from the piano bench so fast that he almost knocked it over. His face turned red with embarrassment. He looked scared and worried. "I'm so sorry, Miss Chen," Miguel said quickly. "I didn't mean to. I wasn't supposed to." He could not finish his sentences because he was so nervous. Sarah did not know what to say. She was still amazed by what she had just heard. Miguel started gathering his cleaning supplies from around the room. He had a cart with mops, buckets, and bottles of cleaning products. "Please don't tell anyone," Miguel said quietly. "I was just cleaning the room and I saw the piano and I'm really sorry. It won't happen again." Miguel pushed his cart toward the door. He kept his head down and would not look at Sarah. She could see that he was very upset and embarrassed. "Wait," Sarah said softly. But Miguel was already hurrying out of the room. She heard his cart rolling down the hallway. Soon even that sound disappeared and Sarah was alone. Sarah stood in the empty conference room looking at the grand piano. The bench was still slightly out of place from when Miguel had jumped up. She could hardly believe what had just happened. The janitor, a man she had walked past many times without really seeing, could play piano better than most professional musicians. Sarah sat down on the piano bench and touched the keys gently. She tried to play a few notes of the piece Miguel had been playing, but her playing sounded rough and simple compared to his beautiful music. She wondered how long Miguel had been coming here to play. How had he learned to play so well? Why was he working as a janitor when he had such incredible talent? Sarah had so many questions, but Miguel was gone. She turned off the lights in the conference room and walked back to the elevator. As she drove home that night, she could not stop thinking about the beautiful music and the man who had played it. Sarah could not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the beautiful piano music in her head. She kept thinking about Miguel and the look of fear on his face when he saw her. She felt bad that she had scared him, but she was also very curious about his story. The next morning, Sarah went to work early. She had her presentation meeting, but she could not focus properly. Her mind kept going back to what she had seen the night before. During lunch break, she decided to find out more about Miguel. Sarah went to the Human Resources Department. She told the HR manager, Mrs. Rodriguez, that she wanted to learn more about the cleaning staff for a project she was working on. This was not completely true, but Sarah did not want to get Miguel in trouble. Mrs. Rodriguez gave Sarah some basic information about the cleaning crew. Miguel Santos had been working at Techvision for 8 years. He worked the night shift from 6 in the evening until 2 in the morning. He had never been late and never caused any problems. He was one of their most reliable employees. Sarah asked if she could see Miguel's employment file. Mrs. Rodriguez looked surprised but agreed. Sarah learned that Miguel was 34 years old. He lived with his mother and younger sister in a small apartment across town. He had listed his mother as his emergency contact. The file did not say much about his background or education. That evening, Sarah stayed late at work again. She told herself it was to catch up on other projects, but really she wanted to see Miguel. She wanted to apologize for scaring him and maybe learn more about his piano playing. Around 8 o'clock, Sarah heard the sound of cleaning carts in the hallways. The night cleaning crew had arrived. Sarah left her office and walked around the building, pretending to check on different departments. She finally found Miguel cleaning the bathrooms on the 15th floor. When Miguel saw Sarah, he immediately looked down at the floor. He continued mopping without saying anything. Sarah could see that he was still embarrassed about what had happened. "Hello, Miguel," Sarah said gently. "I wanted to talk to you about last night." Miguel stopped mopping, but still did not look up. "I'm really sorry, Miss Chen. I know I shouldn't have been in that room. I promise it won't happen again." "You don't need to apologize," Sarah said. "Your playing was beautiful. I've never heard anything like it." Miguel finally looked up at her. He seemed surprised that she was not angry. You really think so?" he asked quietly. "Yes, I do." "Where did you learn to play like that?" Miguel went back to mopping. "I taught myself," he said. "I watch videos on the internet and practice when I can." "Practice where?" Sarah asked. Miguel's face turned red again. "Sometimes here late at night when everyone is gone. I know I shouldn't, but the piano is so beautiful, and I've never had a chance to play on a real grand piano before." Sarah felt sad hearing this. "How long have you been playing piano?" "Since I was a kid," Miguel said. "My grandmother had an old keyboard that barely worked. She taught me a few songs before she died. After that, I kept learning on my own." "Have you ever thought about playing professionally?" Sarah asked. Miguel laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "Miss Chen, I'm a janitor. I clean toilets and empty trash cans. I don't have money for music school or fancy lessons. I have to work to support my family." Sarah wanted to ask more questions, but she could see that Miguel was uncomfortable. "I won't tell anyone about your playing," she said. "But I think you're very talented." "Thank you," Miguel said. "But please, can we just forget about this? I need this job. My mother is sick and my sister is in college. I can't afford to lose my work." Sarah nodded. "I understand. I won't say anything." Miguel smiled for the first time. "Thank you, Miss Chen. You're very kind." The next few days, Sarah could not stop thinking about Miguel's situation. She did some research online about piano players and music education. She learned that many famous musicians had started with very little money. But she also learned that without proper training and opportunities, it was very hard to make a career in music. Sarah decided to stay late again the following week. She wanted to hear Miguel play one more time. Maybe she could convince him to share his talent with the world. On Thursday night, Sarah waited until most people had gone home. Then she walked to the 20th floor. She could hear piano music coming from the conference room again. This time, Miguel was playing something different. It sounded like he was making up the music as he played. Sarah listened outside the door for a few minutes. The music was sad and beautiful at the same time. It told a story without words. Sarah could feel the emotion in every note. She knocked gently on the door. The music stopped immediately. Sarah heard Miguel moving around inside the room. "It's Sarah Chen," she said softly. "Can I come in?" After a moment, Miguel opened the door. He looked worried again. "Miss Chen, I thought you said—" "I know what I said," Sarah interrupted. "But I had to hear you play again. That music you were just playing, did you write it yourself?" Miguel nodded slowly. "It's just something I made up. It's not really a proper song." "It was beautiful," Sarah said. "Can I sit and listen for a while? I promise I won't tell anyone." Miguel looked uncertain. "I don't know. What if someone sees you here with me? What if your mother finds out?" "My mother doesn't control what I do after work hours," Sarah said. "And there's no one else here except security." Miguel thought for a moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, but just for a little while." Sarah sat in one of the conference room chairs. Miguel sat back down at the piano. He started playing again, but this time he seemed nervous. His playing was still beautiful, but not as relaxed as when he thought no one was listening. "Pretend I'm not here," Sarah said. "Just play the way you were playing before." Miguel closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Slowly, he started to relax. The music began to flow naturally again. Sarah watched his hands move across the keys. She could see that he had learned to play by feeling the music, not just by reading notes. When Miguel finished the piece, Sarah clapped softly. "That was amazing." "You have a real gift." "Thank you," Miguel said. "Music is the only thing that makes me feel— I don't know how to explain it." "Happy?" Sarah suggested. "More than happy," Miguel said. "When I play, I feel like I'm the person I was meant to be. Not just a janitor, but someone who creates something beautiful." Sarah felt her heart break a little bit. She realized that Miguel had been hiding this huge part of himself for years. "Why don't you try to do something with your music?" she asked. Miguel shook his head. "Miss Chen, you don't understand. I have responsibilities. My mother has diabetes and needs medicine. My sister Maria is studying to be a nurse. I can't just stop working to chase a dream." "But maybe there's a way to do both," Sarah said. "There's no way," Miguel said firmly. "I've thought about it many times. Music is for people who have money and education. People like me just have to be happy with what we have." Sarah wanted to argue with him, but she could see that Miguel had made up his mind. She also understood that his situation was complicated. He was not just thinking about himself, he was thinking about his family. "Well," Sarah said, "at least you can still play here sometimes, as long as you're careful." Miguel smiled sadly. "Thank you for understanding, Miss Chen, and thank you for listening to my music. It means a lot to have someone appreciate it." As Sarah drove home that night, she felt frustrated and sad. Miguel had so much talent, but he felt trapped by his circumstances. She wondered if there was something she could do to help him. But she did not want to interfere in his life without permission. Sarah decided that for now she would just be a friend and a listener. Maybe that was enough. Over the next few weeks, Sarah found herself staying late at work more often. She told herself it was to finish projects, but really she wanted to spend time listening to Miguel play piano. They had developed a routine. Around 9 o'clock, when the building was mostly empty, Sarah would go to the conference room and Miguel would be there practicing. At first, Miguel was nervous when Sarah listened to his music, but slowly he began to relax around her. Sarah always sat quietly in the corner and never interrupted while he played. Sometimes Miguel would play classical pieces that Sarah recognized. Other times he would play his own compositions. One evening, after Miguel finished playing a sad, beautiful piece, Sarah asked him about it. "That song felt very personal," she said. "Did you write it about something specific?" Miguel was quiet for a moment. He was still sitting at the piano, his hands resting on the keys. "I wrote it when my father died," he said softly. "It was 15 years ago, but I still miss him every day." "I'm sorry," Sarah said. "What happened to him?" Miguel turned around on the piano bench to face her. He was a construction worker. He fell from a building he was helping to build. The doctor said he died immediately. Sarah felt her heart sink. That must have been terrible for your family. It was, Miguel said. I was 19 years old and in my last year of high school. My sister Maria was only 7. My mother worked as a house cleaner, but she didn't make enough money to support all of us. So you had to quit school? Sarah asked. Miguel nodded. I had to start working right away. I got a job at a restaurant washing dishes. Later I worked in a warehouse. Then I got this job here 8 years ago. Sarah realized that Miguel had been working and supporting his family since he was very young. What about music school? Did you ever think about going? Miguel smiled sadly. I dreamed about it all the time. Before my father died, I was planning to apply to the music program at the community college. I had saved up some money from a part-time job, but after the accident everything changed. You had to use the money for your family, Sarah said. Yes, and there was never enough money after that to think about school. Every dollar I earned went to rent, food, and medical bills for my mother. Sarah learned that Miguel's mother, Carmen, had developed diabetes a few years after her husband died. The stress of losing him and working multiple jobs had made her sick. She needed medication and regular doctor visits. Miguel's sister Maria was now 22 and in her final year of nursing school. Miguel had been paying for her education. Maria's very smart, Miguel said proudly. She gets good grades and will graduate next year. She wants to help people the way nurses helped our mother when she was really sick. You must be proud of her, Sarah said. I am. She's going to have the career I never could. She'll have a profession that makes her feel good about herself. Sarah felt sad hearing this. But your music makes people feel good too. You have a gift. Miguel shook his head. Miss Chen, you're very kind, but let's be realistic. I'm 34 years old. I have no formal music training. I can't read music very well. I just play by ear. You can't read music? Sarah asked, surprised. I can read simple music, but not the complicated pieces. I learn everything by listening to recordings and watching videos. I watch the pianist's hands and try to copy what they do. Sarah was amazed. You learned to play Chopin just by watching videos? It took me months to learn that piece, Miguel said. I would watch the same video over and over, pausing it every few seconds to see where the pianist put his fingers. Sarah realized that Miguel was not just talented, he was incredibly dedicated. Most people would have given up trying to learn complex music without proper lessons. What about your original compositions? Sarah asked. How do you create those? Miguel's face lit up a little. Those are easier for me. When I have feelings I can't express with words, I try to express them with music. I sit at the piano and just let my hands move. Sometimes beautiful music comes out. Have you written many songs? Maybe 20 or 30 over the years. I don't write them down properly because I don't know how to notate music well. I just remember them in my head. Sarah was shocked. You have 30 original compositions that you've never shared with anyone? Who would I share them with? Miguel asked. My mother likes when I play for her sometimes, but she's usually too tired from work to listen. Maria is always studying. I don't have friends who are interested in classical music. Sarah felt sorry for Miguel. He had all this beautiful music inside him, but no one to share it with. Would you play one of your compositions for me? She asked. Miguel hesitated. They're not very good. They're just what I feel. That's what makes music good, Sarah said. Feeling. Miguel turned back to the piano. He thought for a moment, then began to play. The music that came out was unlike anything Sarah had ever heard. It was classical in structure but had influences from Latin music. There were rhythms that reminded Sarah of salsa dancing, but played with the complexity of a Bach fugue. The piece told a story. Sarah could hear struggle and sadness, but also hope and determination. She could hear the sound of family, of love, of dreams that seemed impossible but never died. When Miguel finished playing, Sarah had tears in her eyes. Miguel, that was incredible. That was better than anything I've heard professional composers write. Miguel looked surprised. Really? Really? That music came from your heart, from your experiences. No music school can teach someone to create something that honest and beautiful. Miguel seemed pleased but also embarrassed. It's just how I feel sometimes. Have you ever recorded your music? Sarah asked. No, I don't have equipment for that. And what would be the point? Sarah had an idea, but she did not want to push Miguel too hard. Would you let me record you playing sometime? Just on my phone for myself. I would love to be able to listen to your music when I'm not here. Miguel looked uncertain. I don't know. What if someone else heard it? I wouldn't share it with anyone without your permission, Sarah promised. Miguel thought about it. Maybe, but not tonight. I need to think about it, Sarah understood. She was asking Miguel to trust her with something very personal and important to him. As the weeks passed, Sarah learned more about Miguel's life. He worked 6 days a week at Techvision. On his one day off, he took care of his mother and helped around the house. He had never taken a vacation. He had never been on a date because he felt he could not afford to support a girlfriend or wife. Don't you ever do anything just for yourself? Sarah asked one night. This, Miguel said, gesturing to the piano. These few hours each week when I can play music. This is what I do for myself. Sarah realized that Miguel's entire life was about taking care of other people. The only time he got to be himself was when he sat at this piano in an empty office building. Miguel, Sarah said gently, you deserve to have dreams too. You deserve to have a life that makes you happy. Miguel was quiet for a long time. I am happy, he said finally. I have a job. My family is healthy. My sister is going to graduate soon. I have this piano a few hours each week. That's more than many people have. Sarah admired Miguel's positive attitude, but she also felt sad that he had accepted such a limited life for himself. She began to wonder if there was some way she could help him without interfering too much in his choices. That night, as Miguel played another one of his beautiful original compositions, Sarah made a decision. She was going to find a way to help Miguel share his gift with the world. She just had to figure out how to do it without making him feel uncomfortable or threatening his security. The music filled the empty conference room, and Sarah knew she was listening to something special. Something that deserved to be heard by more people than just her. It took Sarah 2 more weeks to convince Miguel to let her record his music. Every time she asked, he would change the subject or make excuses. Sarah understood his hesitation. For Miguel, his music was something private and personal. Sharing it felt risky. One Thursday evening, Miguel seemed more relaxed than usual. He had just finished playing one of his original compositions, a piece that mixed classical piano with rhythms that reminded Sarah of his grandmother's homeland in Mexico. That piece was incredible, Sarah said when he finished. It sounded like it told the story of your family. Miguel smiled. That's exactly what it is. I call it memories of home in my head. It starts with the music my grandmother taught me when I was little, then it grows into something bigger. Miguel, Sarah said carefully, would you consider letting me record just that one piece? It's so beautiful and I hate that it only exists in this room. Miguel was quiet for a moment. He ran his fingers over the piano keys without making sound. What would you do with the recording? Nothing if you don't want me to. I just want to be able to hear it again. Your music makes me feel peaceful, happy. I would love to listen to it when I'm having a bad day. Miguel looked at Sarah's face. He could see that she was being honest. You really like my music that much? I love your music, Sarah said simply. I think it's some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard. Miguel made his decision. Okay, you can record that one piece, but promise me you won't show it to anyone else. I promise, Sarah said. Sarah got her phone ready to record. Miguel sat quietly at the piano for a minute, preparing himself. Then he began to play Memories of Home. As Sarah listened and recorded, she felt like she was hearing the piece for the first time, even though Miguel had played it before. Knowing that this was being captured forever made it feel more special. The music started soft and gentle like a lullaby. Then it grew stronger and more complex, adding layers of melody and rhythm. The ending was powerful and hopeful, like someone who had overcome great difficulties. When Miguel finished, Sarah stopped the recording. That was perfect, she said. Miguel looked nervous. Can I hear how it sounds? Sarah played the recording back. The phone's speaker was small, but the music still sounded beautiful. Miguel listened with a serious expression on his face. It's strange hearing my own music played back like that, he said. It sounds real. It is real, Sarah said. It's your creation, and it's wonderful. Over the next few days, Sarah listened to the recording many times. She played it while she worked, while she drove home, and before she went to sleep. Each time she heard it, she noticed something new in the music. Sarah had a friend named Alex Rodriguez who worked as a music producer in the city. Alex had studied music in college and now helped independent musicians record their songs. Sarah and Alex had been friends since high school. On Saturday, Sarah decided to visit Alex at his recording studio. She had an idea, but she was not sure if it was a good one. Alex's studio was in an old warehouse that had been converted into creative spaces for artists. When Sarah arrived, Alex was working on a recording with a young singer who wrote folk songs. "Sarah," Alex said when he saw her. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to ask you about something," Sarah said. "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" After the folk singer left, Alex and Sarah sat in the control room of the studio. The room was full of complicated equipment for recording and mixing music. "What's on your mind?" Alex asked. Sarah hesitated. She had promised Miguel she would not share his recording with anyone, but she also felt like Alex might be able to help Miguel in some way. "Alex," Sarah said slowly, "if you heard a piece of music that was really extraordinary but the person who wrote it couldn't afford to record it properly, what would you do?" Alex looked interested. "Depends on how extraordinary it is. There are a lot of talented musicians who can't afford studio time. I try to help when I can, but I have bills to pay too." Sarah made a decision. She would play the recording for Alex, but she would not tell him who made it or where it came from. "Can I play something for you?" Sarah asked. "But I need you to promise not to ask me where I got it." Alex raised his eyebrows. "Now I'm really curious." "Okay, I promise." Sarah played Miguel's recording on her phone. Even through the small speaker, the music filled the room with its beauty and emotion. Alex listened without saying anything. When the piece ended, he was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah," Alex said finally, "where did you get this?" "You promised not to ask," Sarah reminded him. "I know, but this is incredible. This is professional-level composition and performance. Who is this musician? Why haven't I heard of them?" Sarah felt excited and nervous at the same time. "So you think it's really good?" "Good?" Alex laughed. "Sarah, this is better than good. This is the kind of music that could win awards. The composition is sophisticated, the performance is flawless, and there's so much emotion in it. This person is a real artist." "What if I told you this person has never had formal music training?" Sarah asked. Alex looked shocked. "That's impossible. You can't learn to compose and perform like this without years of study." But what if it were true? Alex thought about it. Then this person would be one of the most naturally gifted musicians I've ever encountered. "Sarah, I need to meet this person. I could help them record a full album. This could be the beginning of a real music career." Sarah felt torn. She was excited that Alex confirmed what she already knew. Miguel was incredibly talented. But she had promised Miguel she would not share his music with anyone. "The person who made this music, they're in a complicated situation," Sarah said carefully. "They have responsibilities that make it hard for them to pursue music as a career." "Everyone has responsibilities," Alex said. "But talent like this is rare. This person could make a living with their music. They could support their family and do what they love." Sarah wanted to tell Alex everything, but she knew she had to talk to Miguel first. "Can you do me a favor?" Sarah asked. "Can you not mention this recording to anyone for now? The musician needs to make some decisions about their future." Alex agreed, but Sarah could see he was frustrated. "Sarah, promise me you'll put me in touch with this person. Music this good needs to be heard by more people." That evening, Sarah stayed late at work again. When Miguel arrived to start his cleaning, she was waiting for him in the conference room. "Miguel," she said, "I need to tell you something, and I hope you won't be angry with me." Miguel immediately looked worried. "What happened? Did you tell someone about the recording?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I played it for my friend Alex. He's a music producer. But I didn't tell him who you are or where the music came from." Miguel's face went pale. "Sarah, you promised." "I know, and I'm sorry. But Miguel, you need to hear what he said about your music." Sarah told Miguel about Alex's reaction to the recording. She explained that Alex thought Miguel was one of the most talented musicians he had ever heard. "He wants to help you record your music professionally," Sarah said. "He thinks you could have a real career as a musician." Miguel sat down heavily in one of the conference room chairs. "Sarah, you don't understand. I can't just become a musician. I have a steady job here. I have health insurance. My family depends on me." "But what if you could do both?" Sarah asked. "What if you could keep your job here and also start recording your music? You could earn extra money from your compositions." Miguel shook his head. "You're talking about a fantasy. People like me don't become famous musicians." "Miguel," Sarah said gently, "you keep saying people like me. But there are no people like you. Your talent is special. Your music is unique. Miguel was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "What did you tell your friend about me?" "Nothing. He doesn't know your name or anything about your situation, but he really wants to meet you." "I don't know," Miguel said. "This all feels too fast, too scary." Sarah understood Miguel's fear. His life was stable and predictable. Taking risks could put his family's security in danger. "You don't have to decide anything right now," Sarah said. "But will you think about it? Will you consider at least meeting Alex?" Miguel nodded slowly. "I'll think about it. But Sarah, promise me you won't do anything else without asking me first." "I promise," Sarah said. As Miguel began his cleaning work that night, Sarah could see that he was thinking hard about what she had told him. She hoped she had not made a mistake by involving Alex, but she also hoped that maybe, just maybe, Miguel would be brave enough to take a chance on his dreams. For the next 2 weeks, Miguel did not want to talk about Alex or recording music. Every time Sarah brought up the subject, Miguel would change the topic or become quiet. Sarah could see that he was struggling with the decision, but she did not want to pressure him. During this time, Alex called Sarah almost every day. He could not stop thinking about Miguel's music. "Sarah, I've been in the music business for 10 years, Alex said during one phone call. "I've worked with hundreds of musicians. That recording you played for me is extraordinary. I can't get it out of my head." "I understand," Sarah said, "but the musician needs time to think." "Time to think about what?" Alex asked, frustrated. "This is an opportunity most musicians would kill for. I'm offering to help them record their music for free. I have connections with record labels and streaming platforms. This person could be performing in concert halls within a year." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility. She knew that Alex was right. This was an amazing opportunity for Miguel. But she also understood Miguel's fear and his loyalty to his family. "Alex," Sarah said, "what if I told you this person has been supporting their family since they were 19 years old? What if they're the only source of income for their sick mother and their sister who's in college?" Alex was quiet for a moment. "Then I'd say this person's music career could help them support their family even better." "Good musicians can make good money, Sarah. But what if they fail? What if no one likes their music?" "That's impossible," Alex said confidently. "Music that good doesn't fail. It might take time to build an audience, but talent like this always finds a way." Sarah wanted to believe Alex, but she understood that Miguel could not afford to take risks the way other people could. On Thursday evening, Sarah found Miguel in the conference room, but he was not playing piano. He was sitting on the piano bench with his head in his hands. "Miguel?" Sarah said softly. "Are you okay?" Miguel looked up. His eyes were red and tired. "My mother had to go to the hospital last night," he said. "Her diabetes is getting worse." Sarah felt her heart sink. "Is she going to be okay?" "The doctors say yes, but she needs new medication. More expensive medication. And she might need to cut back on her work hours." Sarah understood immediately. This meant Miguel would need to work even more to make up for the lost income. "Miguel, I'm so sorry," Sarah said. "The hospital bill is going to be huge," Miguel continued. "Even with insurance, we'll have to pay thousands of dollars. And Maria only has 1 semester left of nursing school. I can't let her quit now when she's so close to graduating." Sarah sat down in a chair near the piano. She could see that Miguel was carrying an enormous burden of worry and responsibility. "Have you thought any more about Alex's offer?" Sarah asked gently. Miguel let out a bitter laugh. "Sarah, I can't think about music right now. I need to pick up extra shifts. Maybe I can get a second job on weekends." "But Miguel, what if your music could help solve these problems? What if you could earn money from your compositions?" Miguel shook his head. "That's a dream, Sarah. Dreams don't pay hospital bills." Sarah felt frustrated. She could see that Miguel was trapped in a cycle, where he was too busy surviving to take chances that might improve his life. "What if Alex could guarantee you some money up front?" Sarah asked. "What if he paid you to record your music?" "Sarah, please stop," Miguel said firmly. "I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I live in the real world. I can't risk my steady job for a maybe." That weekend, Sarah could not stop thinking about Miguel's situation. His mother was sick. The medical bills were piling up, and Miguel was working himself to exhaustion. Meanwhile, he had this incredible talent that could potentially solve all his financial problems. But he was too scared to try. Sarah decided to call Alex and tell him the truth about Miguel's situation. She felt bad about breaking her promise to keep Miguel's identity secret. but she thought Alex might have ideas about how to help. "Alex," Sarah said when he answered the phone, "I need to tell you who the musician is, and I need your help figuring out how to help him." Sarah told Alex everything, about Miguel being a janitor at her mother's company, about his family responsibilities, about his fear of taking risks with his career. Alex was quiet for a long time after Sarah finished the story. "Sarah," he said finally, "this makes the music even more incredible. This man has been through so much and he's created something so beautiful from his experiences. Can you help him?" Sarah asked. "I want to," Alex said, "but I need to meet him first. I need to hear him play in person and see what other compositions he has. He's afraid to meet you. He thinks you'll judge him for being a janitor." "That's ridiculous," Alex said. "Some of the best musicians I know come from working-class backgrounds. Music doesn't care about your job title." Sarah had an idea. "What if I arranged for you to accidentally discover Miguel playing? What if you happened to be in the building one night and heard him?" "You mean trick him into meeting me?" "Not trick exactly," Sarah said. "Just create an opportunity for you two to meet naturally." Alex thought about it. It could work. "But Sarah, are you sure this is the right thing to do? If Miguel finds out you planned it, he might feel betrayed." Sarah was not sure. She wanted to help Miguel, but she also did not want to go behind his back. "Let me think about it," she said. On Monday evening, Sarah stayed late at work again. Miguel seemed a little less stressed than he had been on Thursday, but she could see that he was still worried about his mother. "How is your mother doing?" Sarah asked. "A little better," Miguel said. "The new medication is helping. But the bills," he shook his head. "Miguel," Sarah said carefully, "what would it take for you to feel safe enough to take a chance on your music?" Miguel looked at her seriously. "I would need to know that my family would be okay if it didn't work out. I would need to know that I could still pay for my mother's medicine and Maria's school. What if someone offered to pay you enough up front to cover those expenses?" "Sarah, no one is going to pay an unknown janitor thousands of dollars to record some music." "But what if they did?" Miguel was quiet for a moment. "If someone offered me enough money to cover my mother's medical bills and Maria's last semester of school, and promised I could keep my job here, then maybe I would consider it." Sarah felt a spark of hope. "How much money would that be?" Miguel calculated in his head. "Probably about $15,000, maybe $20,000 to be safe." Sarah's heart sank. That was a lot of money. She did not know if Alex could offer that much for an unknown musician. "Miguel," Sarah said, "would you be willing to meet with Alex if I could convince him to make that kind of offer?" Miguel looked surprised. "Sarah, that's not possible. No one pays that kind of money to someone they've never met." "Let me ask him," Sarah said. "Just let me ask." Miguel shrugged. "You can ask, but don't get your hopes up. And don't get my hopes up either." That night, Sarah called Alex and explained what Miguel needed to feel safe enough to pursue his music career. $20,000, Alex said. "Sarah, that's a lot of money for someone I've never met in person." "But you heard his music. You said it was extraordinary." "It is extraordinary. But I need to know that he has more than one good composition. I need to know that he can perform under pressure. I need to know that he's serious about this." Sarah felt her hope fading. "So you won't do it?" "I didn't say that," Alex said slowly. "Let me think about this. If this musician is as good as I think he is, $20,000 could be a good investment. But I need to meet him first." Sarah realized she was at a crossroads. She could continue to protect Miguel's privacy and let him continue struggling financially, or she could take a risk and try to arrange a meeting between Miguel and Alex, even if it meant going against Miguel's wishes. She decided that sometimes being a good friend meant taking risks for someone who was too afraid to take risks for themselves. Sarah spent 3 days planning how to bring Alex and Miguel together. She felt nervous about arranging a meeting without Miguel's permission, but she also felt like this might be his only chance to change his life. Sarah told Alex to come to the Techvision building on Thursday night around 9:30. She gave him a visitor's badge and told security that he was helping her with a project. Alex was nervous too, but he trusted Sarah's judgment about Miguel's talent. On Thursday evening, Sarah stayed late as usual. When Miguel arrived for his cleaning shift, she was waiting in the conference room. "Hi, Miguel," Sarah said. "How was your day?" "Okay," Miguel said. He still looked tired and worried about his family's situation. "My mother is feeling better, but the medical bills keep coming." I'm glad she's feeling better, Sarah said. Miguel, would you play something for me tonight? I've had a really stressful week and your music always helps me relax. Miguel smiled. This was the first time in weeks that he seemed genuinely happy. Of course. What would you like to hear? Surprise me, Sarah said. Miguel sat down at the piano and began to play one of his original compositions. This one was called Hope in his mind. It started very softly, like a whisper, and gradually grew stronger and more confident. The music told the story of someone who refused to give up, even when life was difficult. As Miguel played, Sarah watched the door. At exactly 9:30, she saw Alex's shadow outside the frosted glass. Alex was listening to the music from the hallway just as Sarah had planned. When Miguel finished the piece, Sarah clapped softly. That was beautiful. What do you call that one? Hope, Miguel said. I wrote it last year when Maria was having trouble with her studies and thought about quitting school. Just then, there was a gentle knock on the conference room door. Miguel looked surprised and worried. Miss Chen? A voice called from outside. I heard music. Is everything okay? Sarah's heart was beating fast. This was the moment she had planned, but she suddenly felt scared that she had made a mistake. It's okay, Sarah called back. Come in. Alex opened the door and stepped into the room. He was a tall man with kind eyes and curly hair. He was carrying a small notebook and looked genuinely surprised to see Miguel at the piano. I'm sorry to interrupt, Alex said, looking at Miguel. I was working late in the building and heard the most incredible piano music. I had to find out where it was coming from. Miguel immediately stood up from the piano bench. His face turned red with embarrassment. I'm sorry, sir. I was cleaning the room and Please don't apologize, Alex said quickly. That music was absolutely beautiful. Are you a professional musician? Miguel looked confused and scared. He glanced at Sarah, wondering who this stranger was and why he was asking questions. Sarah realized she had to explain what was happening. Miguel, she said gently, this is my friend Alex Rodriguez. He's a music producer. Alex, this is Miguel Santos. Miguel's eyes went wide with shock and anger. Sarah, what did you do? I asked Alex to come here because I wanted him to hear you play in person, Sarah said. Miguel, Alex heard the recording I made and he thinks you're incredibly talented. Miguel looked like he wanted to run away. You told me you wouldn't share that recording with anyone. I know and I'm sorry, Sarah said. But Miguel, Alex wants to help you. Alex stepped forward carefully. He could see that Miguel was upset and scared. Miguel, I hope you'll forgive Sarah for arranging this meeting. She told me about your situation and I understand why you might be hesitant about pursuing music. My situation? Miguel asked, looking even more embarrassed. She told me that you support your family and that you're worried about taking risks with your career, Alex explained. Those are legitimate concerns. But Miguel, your music is extraordinary. I've been working in the music industry for 10 years and I've never heard compositions like yours. Miguel sat back down on the piano bench. He looked overwhelmed. I don't understand what's happening. Alex sat down in one of the conference room chairs. Miguel, can I ask you to play another piece? Something original? Miguel looked at Sarah. She could see that he felt betrayed and confused, but she also saw curiosity in his eyes. You don't have to, Sarah said softly. But Alex came here because he believes in your talent. Miguel was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned back to the piano. I'll play one piece, he said. But then I want you both to leave me alone. Miguel began to play another of his original compositions. This one was more complex than the others Sarah had heard. It started with a simple melody, but then Miguel added layers of harmony and rhythm that created an incredibly rich sound. The piece seemed to tell the story of someone torn between dreams and responsibilities. As Miguel played, Alex closed his eyes and listened intently. Sarah could see that he was amazed by what he was hearing. When the piece ended, Alex was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Miguel, that was one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard. Did you really write that yourself? Miguel nodded. It's called The Choice. I wrote it about difficult decisions. Miguel, Alex said seriously, I want to offer you a recording contract. I want to help you record an album of your compositions. Miguel shook his head. Sir, I appreciate the offer, but I can't. I have responsibilities. What if I told you I could pay you $20,000 up front to record an album? Alex asked. Miguel's eyes went wide. $20,000? Yes, I would pay you that money before we even start recording. You could use it to take care of your family's needs while we work on your music. Miguel looked stunned. But what if the album doesn't sell? What if people don't like my music? Miguel, Alex said, I've been doing this for a long time. Music like yours doesn't fail. It might take time to build an audience, but I'm confident that your compositions will touch people's hearts the way they've touched mine. Sarah watched Miguel's face as he processed this information. She could see that he was tempted but also scared. I would need to keep my job here, Miguel said quietly. At least until I know the music career is stable. Of course, Alex said. We can record the album on weekends and evenings. You don't have to quit your job until you're ready. Miguel was quiet for a long time. Sarah could see that he was thinking about his mother's medical bills, his sister's education, and his own dreams. Can I think about it? Miguel asked finally. Of course, Alex said. But Miguel, don't think too long. Opportunities like this don't come along very often. Alex gave Miguel his business card and left the building. After he was gone, Miguel turned to Sarah. I can't believe you did that without asking me, he said. I know you're angry, Sarah said. But Miguel, this could change your life. It could also ruin my life, Miguel said. What if your friend is lying? What if this is some kind of trick? Sarah understood Miguel's suspicion. His life had been full of struggles and disappointments. It was hard for him to believe that something this good could really happen to him. Miguel, Sarah said, Alex is a good person. He's honest and successful. He wouldn't offer you $20,000 if he didn't believe in your music. Miguel put his head in his hands. I don't know what to do, Sarah. This is too big, too scary. What does your heart tell you? Sarah asked. Miguel looked up at her. My heart tells me to try, but my head tells me it's too dangerous. Sometimes, Sarah said gently, we have to take risks to get the life we really want. Miguel nodded slowly. I need to talk to my family. I need to think about this more. As Miguel gathered his cleaning supplies to continue his work, Sarah hoped she had done the right thing. She had taken a big risk by arranging this meeting, but she believed it was Miguel's best chance to escape the cycle of just surviving and start really living. Miguel did not come to work the next day. Sarah waited in the conference room until late, but he never showed up. She felt worried that she had pushed him too hard and scared him away. On Saturday morning, Sarah's mother, Margaret Chen, called her into her office at home. Sarah, Margaret said, I received an interesting call from building security yesterday. They told me you've been staying late at the office frequently, and that you brought a visitor to the building on Thursday night. Sarah felt nervous. Mom, I can explain. I hope so, Margaret said, because they also told me that one of our cleaning staff has been playing the piano in the executive conference room after hours. Sarah's heart sank. She realized that security had been watching more carefully than she thought. Sarah, Margaret continued, what exactly is going on? Sarah decided to tell her mother the truth. She explained everything, how she had discovered Miguel's talent, how they had become friends, and how she had arranged for Alex to meet him. Margaret listened without interrupting. When Sarah finished, her mother was quiet for a long moment. So you're telling me that our janitor is some kind of musical genius? Margaret asked. Yes, Sarah said. Mom, his music is incredible. He's completely self-taught, but he plays and composes better than most professional musicians. Margaret looked skeptical. Sarah, I appreciate that you want to help people, but you need to be careful about getting too involved in employees' personal lives. This isn't about being involved in his personal life, Sarah said. This is about recognizing real talent and helping someone who deserves a chance. Sarah, you're young and idealistic. You don't understand how complicated these situations can be. Sarah felt frustrated. Mom, what if I could prove to you that Miguel is as talented as I say he is? Margaret sighed. How would you do that? Let me play you one of his recordings. Sarah played the recording of Memories of Home on her phone. As the music filled Margaret's office, Sarah watched her mother's face change. Margaret's expression went from skepticism to surprise to genuine amazement. When the piece ended, Margaret was quiet for a long time. Who taught him to play like that? Margaret asked. No one. He's completely self-taught. Margaret shook her head. That's extraordinary. Sarah, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? Because Miguel was afraid. He thought he would get in trouble for using the company piano. Margaret felt ashamed. She realized that her company's policies and culture had made a talented employee feel like he had to hide his gifts. "I want to meet this young man," Margaret said. "I don't know if he'll agree to meet you. He's very scared about all of this attention." That evening, Sarah went to Miguel's apartment. She had found his address in the employee directory. Miguel lived in a small apartment building in a working-class neighborhood across town. When Miguel opened the door, he looked surprised and embarrassed to see Sarah at his home. "Miss Chen," he said, "what are you doing here?" "Miguel, you didn't come to work yesterday. I was worried about you." Miguel invited Sarah inside. The apartment was small but very clean and organized. There was an old keyboard in the corner of the living room, probably the one Miguel had mentioned learning on as a child. Miguel's mother, Carmen, was sitting in a chair by the window. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Miguel's sister Maria was at the kitchen table studying from nursing textbooks. Miguel introduced Sarah to his family. Carmen seemed surprised that the CEO's daughter was visiting their home, but she was polite and welcoming. "Miguel told us about the music producer," Carmen said in accented English. "We are very proud of Miguel's music, but we are also worried." "What are you worried about?" Sarah asked. Maria looked up from her textbooks. "We're worried that if Miguel tries to become a musician and it doesn't work out, he'll lose his steady job. Then what will happen to our family?" Sarah understood their fears. "What if I told you that my mother wants to help make sure Miguel doesn't lose his job, no matter what happens with his music?" Miguel looked surprised. "Your mother knows about this?" "Yes, and she wants to meet you." "Miguel, my mother heard your recording and she was amazed. She wants to find a way to support your music while keeping you secure in your job." Miguel, Carmen, and Maria talked together in Spanish for several minutes. Sarah could see that they were having a serious family discussion about Miguel's future. Finally, Miguel turned back to Sarah. "What exactly is your mother proposing?" "She wants to create a company scholarship program for employees who want to pursue education or develop their talents." "You would be the first person to receive this scholarship." "What would that mean?" Miguel asked. "It would mean you could go to music school part-time while keeping your job and benefits. The company would pay for your education and you would have guaranteed job security." Carmen started crying. "Miguel," she said in Spanish, "this is the chance we have prayed for." Miguel looked overwhelmed. "But what about Alex's recording offer?" "You could do both," Sarah said. "You could record your album with Alex and also study music formally. Miguel, this is your chance to have both security and your dreams." 3 weeks later, Miguel sat nervously backstage at the Techvision company gala. It was the company's annual celebration, held in a large hotel ballroom. All the employees and their families were invited, along with important clients and business partners. Margaret Chen had asked Miguel to perform one of his original compositions at the gala. At first, Miguel had refused, saying he was too nervous to play in front of so many people. But Sarah had convinced him that this was his chance to share his gift with the world. Miguel was wearing a new black suit that the company had bought for him. His hands were shaking as he waited for his turn to perform. "Miguel," Sarah said, finding him backstage, "how are you feeling?" "Terrified," Miguel admitted. "What if I mess up? What if people don't like my music?" "Miguel," Sarah said, "remember why you play music. You don't play for other people's approval. You play because music is part of who you are." The event coordinator called Miguel's name. It was time for his performance. Miguel walked onto the stage. There were over 300 people in the audience. He saw Carmen and Maria sitting at a table near the front, both dressed in their best clothes and looking proud but nervous. Miguel sat down at the grand piano that had been brought in for the event. He looked out at the audience and saw all kinds of people: executives, employees, clients, families. For a moment, he felt like running away. Then Miguel remembered something his grandmother had told him when he was a child. Music is a gift you give to the world. When you share your music, you share your heart. Miguel began to play Hope, the piece he had played for Alex on the night they met. As the music filled the ballroom, the room became completely quiet. People stopped talking and turned to listen. The music started softly like a whisper of possibility. Then it grew stronger and more confident, telling the story of someone who refused to give up on their dreams despite obstacles and setbacks. The piece built to a powerful climax that seemed to celebrate the triumph of hope over despair. When Miguel finished playing, the ballroom was silent for a moment. Then the entire audience stood up and began clapping enthusiastically. The applause went on for several minutes. Miguel stood up from the piano bench and looked out at the audience. People were smiling, and some were wiping tears from their eyes. His mother and sister were clapping and crying at the same time. Margaret Chen walked onto the stage with a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "you have just heard the music of Miguel Santos, one of our valued employees, and now the first recipient of the Techvision Arts Scholarship. Miguel will be studying music composition at the City Conservatory while continuing to work with our company." The audience applauded again. Miguel felt overwhelmed by the positive response. "Miguel," Margaret continued, "would you like to say a few words?" Miguel took the microphone with shaking hands. He had never spoken to such a large group of people before. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I want to thank Miss Sarah Chen for believing in my music when I didn't believe in myself. I want to thank Mrs. Margaret Chen for creating opportunities for employees like me. And I want to thank my family for supporting my dreams even when they seemed impossible." Miguel paused and looked out at the audience. "Music has always been my way of expressing hope. Tonight you have given me hope for my future. Thank you." 6 months later, Miguel was balancing 3 different parts of his life. He still worked at Techvision 3 nights a week, but now he also attended music classes during the day and recorded songs with Alex on weekends. His first album, Songs from the Heart, had been released and was slowly building an audience. Music critics had praised Miguel's unique style and emotional depth. Several of his compositions were being played on classical music radio stations. Miguel's mother's health had improved significantly. With better insurance coverage through Miguel's scholarship program and extra income from his music, she could afford better medical care and had been able to reduce her work hours. Maria had graduated from nursing school and found a job at the same hospital where their mother had been treated. She was proud to be able to contribute to the family's income for the first time. On Saturday afternoons,